What if I told you that a Texas high school teacher was caught having an inappropriate relationship with a student and the district covered it up? What if I told you that after that cover-up, that same teacher went on to place cameras inside the boys' locker room and the district covered that up and then continued allowing this monster access to boys that he continued victimizing? That is exactly what a new lawsuit alleges. And if these details are true, this guy deserves far more than jail time. Prepare to be enraged, and viewer discretion is advised. Welcome back to Come and Take It. Like I said, viewer discretion advised for this one. Make sure no young children are in the room, and also make sure that you have taken your blood pressure medication should you require it, because I've got a real doozy of a story for you.
Buckle up, Jimbo. This one's a doozy.
I want to introduce you to 26-year-old Caleb Elliott. Caleb is an alleged pervert. See, I have to say alleged for legal reasons because this is all still playing out in the court of law. So, allegedly, Caleb is a piece of human garbage. Now, Caleb is also the son of longtime head coach and athletic director of Celina ISD, Bill Elliott. After graduating college several years ago, Caleb joined his father, Bill, on the coaching staff at Celina High School as a receivers coach and a substitute teacher. Now, just to set the stage for you about this family, Caleb played on the football team. His dad is like this legendary coach. Everyone knows him. He's really, really good, and this is like a football town, so they care a whole lot about football, all right? So Caleb goes to college, he graduates, he comes back, and he joins Daddy, as I said, as a receivers coach. Now, in 2023, Caleb suddenly was relocated 5 minutes down the road at a different school in Celina ISD. This is instead of Celina High School, he's moved to Moore Middle School.
God, I do not like where this is going.
Well, according to the lawsuit, this wasn't just a random relocation. This wasn't we just need some more teachers over here, so we're going to funnel a couple from here over to here just to satisfy all of the, number of teachers that we need. No. Caleb was moved from the school he was at, according to the lawsuit, because Celina ISD discovered that Caleb was engaging in a romantic sexual relationship with a male student at that school.
Wow, no.
And so instead of firing his ass and reporting him to TEA so he could never exploit another child again, they just sent him down the road. Just sent him 5 minutes down the road to the younger kids, as it turns out. It wasn't bad enough. He was exploiting high school-age children. They sent him down the road to the younger kids at the middle school and made him the 8th grade boys football coach. So now he's the 8th grade boys coach at Moore Middle School. I mean, just think about that for 1 second, okay? They took a man allegedly engaged in a second-degree felony. Improper relationship with a student and a teacher. That is a second-degree felony for that teacher. They took a man engaging in a second-degree felony with the young boy and said, you know what? I think this degenerate needs to be around more young boys. I think what he needs in his life is to be surrounded by more potential exploitees. Now, if they had thought for 1 second, maybe football isn't everything, maybe we should just fire him, they would have saved a lot of boys from being harassed and further exploited, as you'll hear momentarily. But football is life, man. You can't mess that up. Just separate the two. Maybe they're in love. That's not our business. Just separate them. What's a second-degree felony among friends? Cover it up. And allegedly, that is exactly what they did. But of course, predators are going to predator. You're not going to stop a child predator who has just been taught that if he does engage in this behavior, if he does engage in felonious behavior, he'll just get enabled and emboldened because his crimes will just be covered up and he'll just be relocated. So, of course, it wasn't long until Caleb struck again. Because according to the lawsuit, during the 2024-2025 school year, Caleb put cameras in the boys' locker room and captured pictures of these young boys. Naked, undressing, undressed, capturing pictures. And you may wonder, or, well, you may, as a reasonable person, think to yourself, oh, well, surely, okay, so that's when he was fired, right? No, he wasn't. Did I mention the high school football team that Caleb's dad coaches were in an undefeated season that year and state champions? I wonder why that wasn't dealt with accordingly, because instead of deciding there is no excuse for a grown man to be installing cameras in a boys' locker room, instead, Celina ISD sent apology letters to select parents of victims, apparently not all of them. I guess you had to be on the good list to get an apology letter from the school district who continues covering for a child predator.
That's disgusting.
Well, what was the excuse that Caleb gave? He said he didn't know it was illegal to take naked pictures of young boys, apparently. He said, I didn't know it was illegal to put the cameras in a locker room where boys were going to be undressing. I was just trying to check notes. Let's see here. Deter theft. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Right.
So you mean to tell me that a man that is supposed to be qualified enough to be around young boys as a coach or a teacher or any sort of role model or even supervisory figure around middle school boys, you're telling me that let's just pretend for a moment that that excuse was true. He would still lack the proper judgment necessary to be around young children if he didn't think for 2 seconds on, yeah, I guess it is illegal to install cameras in a boy's locker room and take pictures of them naked. Now, obviously, we know that that's not the case because, again, predator's gonna predator. Obviously, this child predator was only enabled and emboldened by this district, and he decided to just get more brazen with his exploitation. And so it's just crazy. I was just trying to deter theft. I don't know, Caleb. I think the only theft that was going on in the boys' locker room was you stealing those young boys' innocence. Should have been fired. But once again, was not. He still was not fired. Instead, Celina ISD continued to harbor a child predator. Because football, man, apparently football's more important than the exploitation of young children. And Caleb was the coach's son, after all. You don't want to rock the boat. But did I mention he's a really good coach? It is unfathomable and unconscionable that this district would have covered up multiple instances of sexual exploitation of children because of football. Because they wanted to win games. Because they wanted to be the state champs. Tell that to the young boys who were exploited, more of them who were exploited because the district refused to do anything about it. Except, I'm sorry, my bad. They did do something about it. They sent those apology letters, as I mentioned, and don't worry, Caleb was banned from the locker rooms, so problem solved. They just said, Caleb, No, no, give me your wrist so I can slap it. No, no, Caleb, you're not allowed to go into those boys' locker rooms anymore, you naughty guy. We know what you're doing in there, you naughty guy. No, no, don't go in there. Oh, problem solved. Except you're going to be shocked to hear this, as a child predator would do. Caleb ignored the rule. And since the rule was never communicated, allegedly, according to the lawsuit, the rule was never communicated to the 8th grade team. They didn't know that Caleb wasn't supposed to go in there. He just started entering the locker room after the coaches had left and returned to their offices. So this is where it gets incredibly disturbing. And I'm going to read you this directly from the article at TexasScorecard.com. There's a very, very in-depth article about the lawsuit, about the timeline, about the district's response that I highly suggest that you go read in its entirety. But I'm going to read this directly from the lawsuit. Beginning in September, the boys noticed Elliot, this is Caleb, standing around the locker room and staring as they undressed and showered, often holding his cell phone with the camera pointed toward the students. This is really difficult to read. I'll try to continue. A parent of one of the boys told Texas Scorecard that Elliot would attempt to hide his phone when other adults entered the area. Uh-oh. Well, hold on. Which adults entered the area? Because I thought Caleb was supposed to be banned. So maybe I'm just misunderstanding what's being written here, but otherwise, the school district continues to have explaining to do. So a grown man, is in a boy's locker room like this, as they're changing, as they're showering, like this. How do you think that's going to make a young boy feel? Well, it gets worse. Plaintiffs allege that Elliot took one of the boys' backpacks and said that he had to, quote, do jumping jacks fully nude, end quote, to get it back. The boy complied while Elliot, quote, watched the child's penis, end quote.
But every day I run into something that I'm dealing with the county judge.
Judge Bray recused himself, but as we'll soon see, he couldn't resist reinserting himself into the process.
Signing notices, setting deadlines, accepting candidate applications, rejecting candidate applications. The dispute that ensued thereafter was centered on whether or not Judge Bray had the authority to do those things or should have been doing those things.
Kicking the Circle, Texas Scorecard's latest documentary, will be available on October 28th at TexasScorecard.com.
I just need to stop for a second. And I just want to be so clear. I would probably be in jail if anyone had engaged in this sort of conduct with my son. I can't imagine the parents' emotions. I mean, it's a range of emotions that I'm having right now and probably that you're having just listening to this. And it's not even my kid. So if it were my kid, my heart goes out to them. I just can't imagine. And by the way, if those parents happen to be watching this right now and they would like to speak with me, I would love to talk to them. Please, you guys, reach out. DM me on social media. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. Please. I would love to talk to you guys about this lawsuit and how I can help. So, back to this. So, after he made this boy do jumping jacks, fully nude, while he watched the child's penis to get his backpack back, the lawsuit says that's when the boys began to suspect that Elliot was, quote, doing more than looking, that he was, in fact, imaging the boys with his smartphone. So taking pictures, recording video. Clearly, he was documenting this through imaging with his phone. They're like, oh, hold on a second. This is super creepy and weird, and this doesn't feel right. And he's always got his phone out and he's pointing it at us and making us do these really weird things. So on the morning of October 3rd, a student saw Elliot unmistakably and intentionally capturing multiple images on his cell phone of the boys' nude buttocks and genitals. But football, man. But what about the football team? But what about his dad, man? I mean, these are young boys who have been traumatized, who've been exploited in their most vulnerable time by a sick-ass pervert freak. So now it's up to the students, because the adults in the situation couldn't act, didn't want to act. Football is life, man. The adults wouldn't act. So now the students, the children in this situation, are the ones who finally have to take charge, because the adults refused to act multiple times. They could have stopped this guy. They could have stopped this freak, and they didn't. So now the students go to the office of the principal. I believe her name is Allison Jen. They go to the principal's office and they say, knock, knock. Hey, Mrs. Ma'am, this guy's a real creep. He's in our locker rooms and he's like doing all of this really, really weird stuff. And it seems like he's recording all of it. So could you like look into that? Now, the school finally at this point informs Celina Police Department, which obtained a search warrant to seize Caleb Elliott's cell phone at the middle school. This is what it takes in Celina ISD to finally get school officials to act on child predators. And I want you guys to know, guaranteed, just from history and knowing how corrupt these school districts are, this is not the only school district that has operated in this manner. After all, the football team, did I mention, the football team right now, they're in the middle of a seven-win undefeated season. 7 wins, 0 losses. They're 7-0 right now, baby. We'd hate to disrupt that. What with all the, the inconvenience, the pesky sexual exploitation of minors. That's inconvenient. That's what it takes. That is what it takes. It takes the students standing up and going to the principal, and the principal apparently realizing this could no longer be covered up. Because the students are now the adults in the room. How sad is that? How despicable is that? So police executed the warrant that afternoon, arrested him that evening. He was released from jail the next day on a $100,000 bond, and then they went through his phone and they found images of students. Duh. And then they arrested him again, and he was released again on another $100,000 bond. Now, this lawsuit I mentioned, it's multiple families, and they're seeking over $1 million. And I just need to be clear. I hope they get every last penny, because even up until the very end of Caleb's time at Celina ISD, the district has proven that they are a football town above all else, including the safety of children. Because here's what the district did. Now, you would think if you were dealing with adults who actually cared about children, who cared about children's health, who cared about children's safety, who cared about the well-being of children, which I think should be number one at the top of the list if you're going to work at a school district, don't you think? The district, if they cared, and this was a shock to them, they couldn't believe it, they would have fired his ass immediately. No, instead, the district allowed Caleb to resign instead of being fired as long as he surrendered his teaching certificate to TEA. So even after they heard what he did, they valued those children so little that they couldn't even send a message. Just send a message. The optics. Send a message that this will not be tolerated. They couldn't even do that. They still were bargaining with the guy, negotiating. All right, fine, you can resign, but just make sure you just surrender your teaching certificate, okay? And then we'll just walk away, no harm, no foul. They value those children so little, they couldn't even be bothered to do that. Now, apparently, the middle school principal and the legendary football coach that everyone was so scared to mess with his career, just 'cause they're like, well, maybe it's not his fault his child's a freaking creep. It's not his fault his child is a predator. It's not the football team's fault. We can't disrupt them. They're having a great season. They're undefeated so far. Well, those two have been placed on leave while the police and the school, through an independent investigation, there's like 2 separate investigations going on right now. And by the way, I will just say, the school has not announced who will be the interim football coach, but Texas Scorecard reporter Erin Anderson, who has been the one that's been on all of this, said that sources in the town told her that the new football coach is set to be Nathan Elliott. Yes, that name should sound familiar. Elliott. You're like, Elliott. Isn't that Caleb's last name? Isn't that Bill's last name? Wait, is that just coincidence? It might be kind of a usual name. No, it's not coincidence. It's actually Bill's son and Caleb's brother, who allegedly, according to Aaron, they plan to put as the new head coach. How's that for caring about kids more than football? Now, on a high note, just so I don't send your blood pressure all the way through the roof, Attorney General Ken Paxton did announce late last week that he is directing his Criminal Investigations Division to investigate reports related to the arrest of course, Caleb Elliott. He says a Celina ISD employee who committed horrendous acts against children, any individual who broke the law or was involved in the heinous actions that have been reported will be brought to justice. And may the justice be swift. It needs to be, our penalties for this need to be so harsh in this state that all of these predators are so afraid of even breathing the wrong way that they get the hell out of here. And anyone involved in the cover-up, in the enabling, in the emboldening, deserve just as harsh of consequences.
Absolutely.
You guys, if you guys have followed me for a while, you guys know I love football. Like, I love football. But I'm not a sicko. Obviously, children are more important than a game. Children are more important than sports. You think football is more important? Why don't you ask the young boys who now have to live with the traumatizing experience of having a coach creep, who was preying on them and taking pictures of their naked bodies without their consent. I hope they sue you and burn your school district to the ground, Celina ISD. Metaphorically, of course. I hope they ruin every single person who was involved in this scandal. I hope those people never have another job. I hope that they are out on the streets, barely able to hang on. And by the way, that would still be, in a just world, that would still be a nice outcome, a benevolent outcome for these people. All right, make sure that you are subscribed to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered on YouTube. And this is the Come and Take It playlist. This is my Texas-based podcast, so make sure that you are subscribed to Come and Take It as well. We will keep an eye on this. Obviously, I'm just a little bit passionate about it. just a little bit passionate about protecting kids. By the way, if you'd like, please go support our work that we are doing to protect children over at TexasFamilyProject.com. That's a nonprofit that I am the vice president for, or of, I should say. And we are working tirelessly to try to hold all adults accountable who want to prey on children in the many ways that they are continuing to try to prey on children here in the state of Texas. That is it for me, and we will see you next time on Come and Take It.